Today we're going to be doing another market watch for 5 running backs for Dynasty Fantasy Football. Today our theme is dumpster diving running backs, those cheap running backs in ADP. We're looking at them, we're looking at their situations, whether you need to buy, sell, or hold, whatever you need to do. We're going to look at their value on the market, look at their production, look at their situation, and then you determine what you want to do from there. But buy, sell, trades, or holds, different from league to league. That's why we're keeping things broad and subjective. But you need to click that subscribe button right now because we're helping you build your dynasty teams every single day. Whether it's looking at rookies, whether it's looking at college prospects, whether it's doing these deep dives on these players to see whether or not we want to buy, sell, hold, stay away, do whatever in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Click that button. Stop missing out. We're going to start off with Ty Chandler. And the reason why? Because he's in an interesting situation. And we're talking about dirt cheap running backs here. RB 58 and ADP. Pushing ADP 200. That means dirt cheap rookie draft pick if you want to buy that way. I prefer buying if he's a throw-in in a much larger trade. I prefer that way with all these players. That would be my method. And I also do not want too many of these players on my roster unless I'm strictly rebuilding, and I'm hoping a guy like Ty Chandler gets an opportunity to see touches in season, and I can sell and get a second-round pick. On top of that, I want a bunch of young guys, but the market in your league is only going to let you have as many young assets on your team as they can allow you to have unless you stockpile draft picks. So again, you want to look at other ways you can win. Backup handcuff running backs with some juice or in a situation where they could emerge as a starter for what, 5-game stretch, 3-game stretch, increase in value, get you a little return on investment, allow you to get more capital moving forward. A guy like Ty Chandler can do that. RB 58 right now, and even if you get him as a throw-in and then sell him for a 4th or a 3rd in season, depending on what happens, if Aaron Jones goes down, that's something you want to do. The thing about him is he's got 4.3 speed. He can really light it up downfield. He can really score fantasy points in a hurry. Last year, he had a 24.7-point game, and then he had some other games where it was like, all right, when he was getting more opportunity. But when he was getting opportunity, when you were watching his touches on the field back then, he was a guy we were talking about in redraft as a pickup, as a lottery ticket. So when you start getting that lottery ticket buzz in the redraft streets, that means in the dynasty streets, you're getting that buzz to sell for a little bit and return back. And if you're catching a running back like that in the back end of the season or right before the trade deadline, getting that little bit of buzz, that hopium coming up, you can capitalize on that. Aaron Jones hasn't been healthy lately. He hasn't been playing full seasons. More than likely, Ty Chandler could be getting some opportunity. He's going to get that 4.3 speed buzz when he hits the field. He's going to be sitting there on waivers and redraft. And if that happens, people are going to be flocking to pick him up. If you have him in the back end of your roster, if he's that one stash, that one handcuff play that you're looking to maximize or get a return on investment in, Ty Chandler could be that guy, and it's all situational. It's all injury-based. It's all in season. But backup running backs, back into the season, to those teams that are trying to win the league, get into the playoffs, they will pay you something. They will give you something. Same thing with Kahlil Herbert, RB 59. And think about DeAndre Swift. Thinking about his time in Detroit. What was the knock on him? It was his health. So DeAndre Swift, injuries upon injuries. Kahlil Herbert, same thing. Same thing. Call spade a spade, but you're paying RB 59, so it doesn't matter about ADP 200 range. Pushing that. We've seen him be productive throughout his career. He was productive last year to an extent. 3 RB1 games last year. That's a lot of RB1 weeks considering how much he was out, considering he was sharing the workload, considering it was the Bears. Rashawn Johnson's there, but he's proven to not be that effective. He's using the passing game a little bit. Herbert's got some juice in the step. He's got some upside there if he's on the field. He's cheap. If he gets a run of games where he's the starter, he could be also seeing like 10 rushing attempts a game. He could be seeing 8 or something like that and a couple targets. That could allow him to piece together a game here and there if you're in a best ball league or something like that. That could allow him to give you a little bit of production. The upside's not going to be super immense week to week. He's not going to be a consistent asset. Maybe for a short-term play. Maybe throughout the season sometime if Swift gets hurt. But if you're looking to sell if Swift gets hurt, then that's a good play. If you got him on the back end because, hey, Swift might get hurt, you liked what you saw, you're picking him up years prior, and now you're like, he's even cheaper. I got a spot on my roster. I can do that. You're also seeing a little increase in value. You can also see that. You're seeing the market saying, hey, they've added Swift and we don't care. You see that right there with the Dynasty ADP from DynastyLeagueFootball.com. You're seeing that. The market's saying, hey, they added Swift. We know he gets hurt. If he gets hurt, Kahlil Herbert's going to step up, be the guy. We're expecting this Bears offense to be different. If it's good different, we'll see. But we're expecting it to be different. They're trying to be good. He had 611 yards, 4.6 yards per carry last year. That's solid. He's not used heavily in the passing game, but they weren't really checking it down that much to running backs. The volume wasn't really that high. It's a weird offense, so it's really hard to really peg, and plus it's changing. He had a 51.9% opportunity share. That's going to change unless something happens to Swift. But the price tag, RB59, as a handcuff. If I have Swift, I'm looking at getting one of those running backs. Definitely am. Herbert's cheap. He's got pop in the step. The market's saying, hey, we're starting to perk up to him. We're starting to perk up. You're seeing that handle come up. That's what that's saying. Now it's Jamaal McLin. RB63 in ADP. ADP around 200. 2.3 targets a game. 2 RB1 weeks. When he's getting touches, he can be productive. That's what that's saying. I get it. We got Williams. We got Pirine. We got Estime. They drafted Estime in the 5th round. McLaughlin's got a different skill set, though. And the thing is, last year, this running back depth chart went to hell with injuries. And it might happen again. And Sean Payton talked up Kahlil McLin after the draft around rookie camp. They made sure to note him in the conferences. He's cheap. He's got pop in the step. And look at Williams, Pirine, Estime. Those 3 running backs got some similarities with strength and size. There was their banger backs. They're a little bit different from player to player. They're not the same. They're not like comparables, but they got a type there with those 3 running backs where McLaughlin's a little bit different. More of a change of pace. Can also be more of a guy that gets it done between the tackles too. He's got some upside. RB63, there's no loss there. Get him as a throw-in. If you really, really love him, if you don't like what's on the board, or if you don't like a prospect on your team, maybe you can snag him for even cheaper. Maybe 410 yards, 5.4 yards per carry. He was efficient with the ball in his hands. Again, it was the Broncos offense, and this is still going to be the Broncos offense. So I am tempered expectations. But again, the same thing. If he gets opportunity, say it's like week 10 or something, you don't have a trade deadline, or you do and it's right before, you might be able to catch a return on investment. That's all I'm saying. Alexander Madison going to the Raiders in the market. Don't know what to do with him because you got Zamir White. Everybody's loving Zamir White. I like Zamir White. I like him as a prospect. Running backs get hurt, though. That's just part of the game. They picked up Dylan Labe. He's going to be the pass-catching specialist. Alexander Madison had some stink on him last year. We know that. 700 yards, 3.9 yards per carry. A lot of RB3+ weeks, 2 RB1 weeks. That's less than some of the other running backs we talked about, and he had more touches, more opportunities. He had this backfield and let it slip through his fingers. He had some injuries. We know that. But right now, RB74, past 200 ADP. We're not catching many passes out of the backfield. We know that, but we pay up for those running backs. But what if Zamir White goes down? Because we know this team wants to run the football. If Zamir White goes down, Alexander Madison's going to jump up in value. Alexander Madison could still hold value. He could still be getting 8 to 10 rushing attempts a game. He could be giving you a little bit of spike weeks. And if you're a team that builds around wide receivers and you moneyball the running back position and he's this cheap and you're trying to scrape by at running back and Zamir White potentially goes down, or if they're running it so much he's still getting close to 10 rush attempts a game and getting some goal line work, that might be something you want. I mean, you don't want, but that's something you may lean to. That's something you may want to think about. Really depends on your strategy, your roster construction. Zamir White goes down, you're selling Alexander Madison. You're not buying players to just sell, but you do have a spot on your roster where you look at these backup running backs and you got to pick your poison. Don't pick up all these guys. You do not have room for that. This is not a sell video. I'm not trying to tell you to get... There are downsides to all these guys. The starter running back stays healthy. The rookie steps up. There's downsides to all these guys. But again, it's a cheap chip to gamble with. You want those cheap chips, and you want to make little returns on investment throughout the season. Little tiny ones. Selling Alexander Madison that you picked up as a throw-in in a trade. That's my goal with all these running backs. Pick up as a throw-in. I'm making another trade. Oh, you got Alexander Madison? You know what? No one really likes him. You know, he's going to be the backup. He's going to be sharing touches. Can you just add him to it? I got an extra spot on my roster. Try and get it done that way. You can trade a fifth. Maybe you pick somebody up off the waiver wire and you get a deal done 1-for-1. Maybe something like that. Maybe something weird like that. But again, you're going as cheap as possible, and we're trying to win on these little trades throughout the season. You got to get it done now, though, because look, the market's down on him in ADP. Like with all these running backs, the market used to be up. It's never going to be up that high again. It's just not going to be. But we can return to some value week 10-ish, 9-ish, 11, 12-ish if something happens to Zamir White. If it doesn't, then what are you really out on? D'Onta Foreman, I mean, it's the same story, different player, but he's shown some juice at different teams midway through the season. Carolina, the Bears, he just does that, and he gets that redraft hopium. Redrafters pick him up mid-season. He gets the articles written about him mid-season. People are talking about him as a hot pickup, and then people look at him. His stock goes up. It's happened a couple times the last few years. Now we're with the Browns. Nick Chubb, we do not know what's up with that knee. We're not going to pretend to be a doctor. Jerome Ford's a good running back. He's not a world beater. And running back's running back. They get hurt. D'Onta Foreman is a veteran. And they said with this pickup, they want another veteran on the roster. They want dependability. He can grind it between the tackles. You're not going to expect him to catch 100 balls. You're expecting him to be an RB79 running back that gets opportunity somewhere down the line. You do the quick flip. You enjoy the product. Whatever it is. He's dirt cheap. The market's like, we don't really like him. We don't like the Browns right now. But it's a little bit ambiguous because we don't know what's up with Nick Chubb. We won't know till he starts getting snaps. We just won't. We'll have hearsay and all that. We'll have a little bit of training camp. Maybe some good feels from those clips that I post on here. That's why you need to be subscribed. If you're not, then what are you doing? And if you watch 2 or more videos, then we need to do a gentleman's agreement because I provide the content. It's free. You watch 2 or more. You got some information. You got entertained. You should hit that button. You know what I'm saying? Because I gave you free content, free information. You hit that button. It's like the payment there, and that's all it is. It's just free. But D'Onta Foreman here, he can be productive. We saw it at Carolina for a short bit. We saw it with the Bears last year. And then in redraft season, that's why we talk redraft too, because it gives you that short spurts of the market in season with these running backs clearly. And the market got hot for him right around week 7, and then whenever he was looking like he was getting touches in the mid part of that year. The market was hot for him. If you did not talk about D'Onta Foreman and brought him up during a waiver wire video, people would be in the comments. It would be like that, which means the value went up. And if that happens, which could happen with a lot of running backs, but he does have ADP. There's running backs behind him that don't have ADP at all. He is getting drafted to some degree. Right now, there is some interest. It's not much. And you can see the ambiguous nature of this offense. You can definitely see how this offense can move the chains. You can definitely see how he can be used. He can be used a lot around the goal line. He can be their banger back. He can fall in the end zone. He could get more than 4 touchdowns. I can see around 4 this year. I could see around 4, 3, 4, something like that. I could see a random spike week or 2. I could definitely see that. Maybe 1 RB 1 week and another RB 2 week. And then a couple weeks in the between that where people are writing waiver wire articles. And then you're like, hey, do you want my D'Onta Foreman for a 3rd? 2026 3rd? 2026 4th? 2026 5th? You got him. as a flyer, as a random add in a trade, and the trade wasn't even for him, it was for another dude, and it just added him to the trade, and you were able to flop some players around on the back end of your roster. That's what D'Onta Foreman is. That's what you're doing with these running backs. There's some upside here. You got to be strategic with these players. You got to be strategic with the back end of your roster. You got to turn and burn it. You got to figure out what to do in the future, and you got to prepare for that. You also got to know your league. If your rosters aren't that deep, then maybe you can only do one of these. If they're super deep, maybe you're doing 2 or 3. If you're rebuilding, maybe you got a bunch of young guys, then space here on the roster, and with that space, you got to conjure up ways to get more young guys, more picks, more capital, and selling off these backup running backs that get a little pub in season that could be useful for one of those guys that are winning right now might be an avenue for that. We explore all avenues, and you take the road that's best for you because it's Dynasty. We're all on different streets. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.